speaking of Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles, let's talk about the NFC East. Or should I say the NFC least? Because as I speak today, the NFC East division in 2020 has been god awful. It's been a terrible division. Right now, heading into Week 11, Philadelphia leads the division at 3-5-1. The New York Football Giants currently are second in the division. They're second in the division with a 3-7 record. Washington right now has a 2-7 record, and Dallas has a 2-7 record. And I think it's pretty fair to say up to this point, because we're heading into Week 11. We know what teams are good. We know what teams are bad. Not a single team in the NFC East is a threat in the playoffs. Not a single team. I don't care if the Giants win the division. I don't care if Washington wins the division. I don't care if Philadelphia wins the division. None of these teams are threats in the playoffs. And to be quite frankly honest with you, none of these teams deserve to host a home playoff game. Now, I'm not going to be one of those people that says, oh, the rules stink. You need to change the rules, because ultimately, this is fun. We're going to get to see Tampa Bay or New Orleans or maybe a Chicago, maybe Arizona go on the road and face the Philadelphia Eagles or maybe the Giants or maybe Washington on the road in the first round. We're going to get a chance to see if Washington or Philadelphia or New York can pull off the upset. And it's going to be so fun to watch, because in the NFL, I just love it when there's chaos, it's one of those things where, oh, it sucks that this team has to face the NFC least winner, and by the way, if that team loses, let's say Tampa Bay, has to face Philadelphia on the road in the playoffs. If Tampa Bay loses that game, boy, oh boy, will the trolls be coming for Tom Brady, okay? So I like the fact that, it's suspenseful, it's fun, but I will say, if there was ever to be a rule, put in place to kind of switch things up and to be very fair in regards to who legitimately should be hosting home playoff games, I think that if you win your division, you should automatically go to the playoffs. You should not knock the Philadelphia Eagles or the Giants for playing in a bad division. Your division is terrible that year and you win the division. Hey, congratulations. You did what you need to do. So if you win your division, you should get into the playoffs. However, I think that down the road, potentially, and again, I'm not advocating for this to happen, but if there was ever a rule to be changed, I would say whichever team has the best records should be the teams that host home playoff games. I think that's a little bit unfair to a certain degree. If Tampa Bay wins 11 or 12 games, that they don't get to host a home playoff game. They have to go face Philadelphia on the road just because Philadelphia won their division. I think that's a little bit unfair. That's just my thought process. But again, let's get back to these terrible, no good, sorry teams that are going to be, in contention to win this division. Okay, Philadelphia, Carson Wentz in 2020, he's been awful. He's been among one of the worst starting quarterbacks in all of football. Philadelphia's wide receiver core has nothing to write home about. Deshaun Jackson continues to be injured. Jalen Reagor hasn't impressed anyone this year. Alshon Jeffrey continues to limp around. Their offensive line is just not very good. The defense is hit and miss. And for what it's worth, this Philadelphia Eagles team tied with the Cincinnati Bengals in week number 3 of 2020. If you're tying with the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously, even though Joe Burrow and that team are on the upward trend. New York Giants. I will say, I think Joe Judge has the Giants moving in the right direction, but anytime 2 of your 3 wins on the season are against Washington, I can't take you seriously. And while Daniel Jones has improved over the last couple of weeks during the New York Giants 2-game winning streak, I'm just not all the way sold on Daniel Jones. I think that he still has a lot to prove, and I'm just not scared of Daniel Jones right now. He's still a young quarterback that's learning, but the Giants, they just don't have the pieces to compete with the Tampa Bays, the New Orleans, or the Green Bays of the world. They're not a threat in the playoffs if they make it. They'll be a scrappy team that could be in games, but I just don't see it. Washington, their defensive line is pretty good, but their defense overall has been very inconsistent. And outside of Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson, you really don't have a second or third punch on offense. And for what it's worth, I'm not too particularly scared of Alex Smith I think that personally, Washington should have, continued to roll with Dwayne Haskins for the season. But again, Ron Rivera, he made that decision. Hey, Dwayne Haskins, he's got to hold that L, And even if Dwayne Haskins was starting, he's not all the way there yet as a starting quarterback. He still has a lot to learn. He's not a finished product by any means. So Washington, they don't have a quarterback I trust. Inconsistent defense, while scrappy at times. And offensively, they don't scare anyone. Dallas, Dak Prescott's out for the season. I don't take them seriously. I really don't even know who their starting quarterback is right now. Is it Ben DiNucci? Because Andy Dalton did get hurt. If Ben DiNucci is your answer at quarterback right now, you shouldn't be taken seriously. And by the way, even when Dak Prescott was starting games, you could have made a strong argument that Dallas could have been an 0-4 football team during Dak Prescott's first 4 starts before he got injured and his season ended due to that injury. Because if Atlanta recovers that onside kick, I'm sorry, but Dallas is going to be 0-4 heading into week 5. So again, Dallas was not a good team with Dak Prescott. I didn't expect them to be a great team, even if Dak Prescott played the full season. I didn't pick the Cowboys to make the playoffs. So again, I'm not sold on the NFC East. And a big stat that I look at in regards to how good teams actually are is point differential. How much are you outscoring your opposition by? Because let's look at 2 of the top 2 teams in the entire NFL. Pittsburgh and Kansas City, arguably the 2 best teams in all football right now. Both of them are playing in the AFC. Pittsburgh on the year, they're undefeated. They're 10-0 heading into week 11. You know what their point differential is? Their point differential is plus 100. The Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champion, as we speak today, their point differential is plus 93. In the NFC, Green Bay, their point differential is plus 53. New Orleans, their point differential is plus 58. Do you know what the NFC East point differential is among these teams? The Eagles, they're at negative 29. The Giants, they're at negative 41. Washington, they're at negative 38. And the Dallas Cowgirls, aka the Dallas Cowboys, they're at negative 86. That is not winning I'm sorry. You're not a good football team if your point differential is negative in the first place. But if you're negative 29, negative 41, negative 38, and negative 86, you're just not a good football team. So again, that's pretty much all I have to say about the NFC East division in 2020. It is by far the worst division I've ever seen. No team in this division is a playoff threat in 2020. And that's really all I have to say about the NFC East in 2020. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.